Thank you for tuning in to this week's message. For information about the church, you can go to our website, connectionschurch.church, or you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram.
Good morning and welcome everyone to the greatest show on earth. I have a question. Who in this room likes candy? I can't hear you guys. Who in this room like candy? All right, well, you will be excited to know that today you guys are going to be a part of figuring out what is the most awesome, the greatest, the bestest, the tastiest candy on earth. That's right. Right here on this stage, we have 6 envelopes, and we're going to get some help from my friend Julie over here. We have 6 envelopes that contain the results of years of struggle, sweat, tears, and research. And we barely even stopped to use the bathroom, but we figured out how to find the greatest candy on earth. So along with Julie, I'm going to need you guys to help me out. So if everybody will take both hands and pat them on your legs like this. That's called a drum roll. So when I ask for a drum roll, that's what I need you guys to do. Good job. You guys sound so awesome. So our first matchup is going to be between Skittles and Tootsie Rolls. So Skittles here and Tootsie Rolls.
I think we had to sub Gobstoppers for Tootsie Rolls. Someone ate them all.
All right, so Tootsie Rolls didn't even make it into the round, but we have our Gobstoppers here and our Skittles. So can we get a drum roll, please? What do you guys think? Who in the room thinks that it's going to be Skittles? Yeah, and who thinks it's going to be Gobstoppers? Ooh, all right. Julie, can you tell us the results?
I sure can. Let me find the correct envelope here.
Drum roll, everybody drum roll.
Wait for it. And the winner is Skittles.
Woo! Awesome. And the next matchup, guys, this is going to be a really tough one. It's going to be Butterfingers. Who thinks it's going to be Butterfingers? Oh, I guess I should show you both. Butterfingers or Reese's? All right, who in here thinks it's going to be Butterfingers? Yeah? All right, Butterfingers has got a crowd. What about Reese's? Ooh, that's going to be a really tough one. All right, everybody give me a drum roll. And Julie, if you'll let us know who the winner is. The anticipation is killing me, guys. I don't know what I'm going to do.
The winner is Reese's Cups.
Bye-bye, Butterfinger. All right, so Reese's is moving on. So now we're going to have another matchup. Matchup number 3 is going to be between M&M's and Airheads. Ooh, that's a really tough one. So who in here thinks it's going to be Airheads? Yeah? Okay, I heard a little bit of noise. What about M&M's? All right. That's going to be a really tough one. So if everybody will give me a drum roll, Miss Julie will let us know which one is the winner.
These are officially sealed and everything. The winner is Airheads.
What? Oh my gosh, I think that you could call that a crazy upset. So Airheads is moving on, and M&M's, see you later. All right, now our very last matchup for the day, well, in round 1, obviously, is going to be between Nerds and Starburst. All right, so who in here thinks it's going to be Nerds? Yeah, Nerds? Anybody? Nerds? All right. What about Starburst? Oh man, that's going to be a tough one too. So if everybody will give me a drum roll, Julie's going to let us know who the winner is.
I should have brought a letter opener, I guess.
Starburst. I could definitely see that. Those pink ones in here, those are my favorites. See you later, Nerds. All right, so now we're going to have our round 2. So the very first one is going to be Skittles versus Reese's. Oh, yeah, that's a big one. What about Skittles? Who are my Skittle fans? Yeah, Reese fans? All right, let me see. Julie, I think you give us a winner between Skittles and Reese's.
I hope it's Reese's.
You think it's Reese's?
I hope so. I
really?
like that better.
I like Reese's. Skittles are good though. The yellow ones, those are my favorite.
It is Reese Cups.
Oh, man. Reese Cups won. All right, see you later, Skittles. All right, so now we have Starburst and Airheads. Who thinks it's Airheads? Yeah, and who thinks it's Starburst? All right, Julie, who is the winner? Drum roll, guys.
I'm sorry, what were we voting on?
I think I did it wrong. Starburst is moving on to the final round. Bye, Airhead.
I have too many envelopes.
My bad. All right, so now we are in the final round. Since Julie has already opened the envelope, we will not make you guys wait any longer. If you'll give us a huge, huge drum roll, the loudest one you've done, we're gonna see who won between Reese's and Starburst.
The winner is...
Come on, I'm sweating. You gotta tell me.
Do you really want to know? Who wants to know? The winner is my favorite Reese Cup.
Oh, see ya, Starburst. Good job, guys. Guys, we've accomplished something so important today. We have chosen the ultimate candy. And I know that you guys are probably gonna load up on candy this upcoming week, right? Because there's a really big holiday coming. What is it? Oh yeah, I see some of you guys out there in your costumes. You all look super fancy. P-Rob wore his costume today. Oh no, that's just what he looks like on a regular basis. My bad. That's okay. But we thought that we should start your Sunday off with a little bit of candy. Sorry. Be careful. Be careful. Sorry. Here you go.
My goodness, that was a ton of fun. Why doesn't everybody grab a seat? There'll be more candy to go in just a little while. I can't believe that you got to have candy at church. Can you believe that? But we do a lot of things at Connections Church that you might not get to do somewhere else. This has been a ton of fun already this morning. But hey, before we get too carried away with candy and all of that kind of stuff, we've got to get around to what we came here to do this morning, don't we?
That's okay. I think I did it.
Do we need to do some church over here? How about over here? How about on this side? Oh man, we've been learning about all kinds of stuff. Adults in the room, for the last 4 weeks prior to today, haven't you been talking about Carnival Life? Haven't we been talking about carnival rides and deep fried foods last week and all that cool stuff? Kids, can you believe they were talking about deep fried candy and deep fried food and didn't invite us to come in and be a part of that? You know what I say to that? Help me out, kids. Boo. Yeah, they should have invited us to come in, but you know what? It's okay. We forgive. We've been learning about forgiveness back in children's ministry all month long. We've been back there talking about a big, long word that begins with an S. Which one of my kids can tell me what that is? Eva. Stewardship. She nailed it. Give her a big round of applause. Stewardship. So while all you adults were in here talking about carnival this and carnival that and all of the good messages that you got to hear, and if you didn't get to hear some of those, I need you to go back on our website and listen to those podcasts. But while you were talking about Carnival Life, we were talking about stewardship. And stewardship is doing what? It's right here on the screen. Taking care of what you have, because it all belongs to who? It all belongs to God. And we talked about that all month long. But since we're in here together on this last Sunday of the month, and since I had to wear my overalls, we might as well mash the two things together. Today we're going to talk about the Scrambler. Who likes the Scrambler? Oh, I love the Scrambler ride. This is the ride, if you don't know, at the amusement park or at the carnival where you get in that car and maybe it's you and one or two other people, right? And it gets to moving slow at first. But then what happens? It goes faster and faster. And the car is well, there's one right there. Check it out. How many of you have ridden on a Scrambler before? Oh, I love this ride. And it goes so fast that you think you're going to crash into the people that are coming this way. And the momentum of the ride squishes everybody to the outside of the car. How many of you are the one that always put on the outside of the car? That's me. Oh, I just had the most fantastic idea I've ever had. Why don't you squish the person right next to you right now? Just, if there's somebody in the middle, just give them a big squish like you're on the car. They won't mind. It's church. We can get away with just about anything. Just give them a great big squish. I was kind of trying to do a thing.
Yeah, but see, here's my thing. We've been here for this entire time, and all we've talked about is candy and squishing each other.
Squishing people, right.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. We haven't talked about Jesus or church or anything else.
Okay. I got you. That's my fan club out there. I got where you're coming from.
Yeah, you get it
and I'm with
bit?
you on that. Yeah.
Okay.
So here's what we'll do. Let's get to it. I respect that. We'll go ahead and we'll get to that. It's good to see you, by the way, Erin.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Yeah,
you look
absolutely.
fancy today. You should let me borrow those sometime.
Absolutely. Well, it's a good question that she brings up. Why are we here today? And why are we always talking about candy around this time of year and all of this Halloween costume business and my Scrambler ride? You know, this is the funnest ride in the park when it gets going really fast. Well, let me get back to what I was actually saying then. I don't want Erin to
get mad.
Exactly. We've got so many different voices is where I was going with this, and influences in our lives that as we're going through whatever it is that you do, whether you go to school or whether you're working in an office environment or driving a bus or whatever you do, there's influences that come in, and we can get scrambled up sometimes. Just like when we're on the Scrambler ride. Do y'all like the Scrambler ride? Man, that thing gets to going so fast, and then the people come in.
Oh my gosh. What are we? I just don't even understand.
Let me get back to what I was saying. The influences of our lives, they impact us in such a way, the pushing and the pulling on us to get things. At times, we get things all scrambled up. That's what I was trying to say when I showed you the Scrambler ride.
That was a good one.
How many of you have ever felt like things are just kind of scrambled up? Yeah, other than your eggs that you ate for breakfast. That's not what I'm talking about. Some of the kids out there are like, hey, yeah, I know what you're talking about, P. Scott. Some stuff gets scrambled up, and I don't know exactly which way things are supposed to go. But we've got adults and kids alike to get back to the point where we remember to live like we know what really matters.
To live like we know what really matters.
Exactly. You've got it, nailed it on the head. Well, Jesus really wanted us to know and how we should live our lives. He was all about that. He's like, let me show you how to do this thing. Let's don't get confused about what we're doing. And he gave example after example of how to make that happen, how to make the most out of what God has actually given us. He gave us a really famous speech one time. I want you guys to know what this speech was. I know that we talked about it last month here in Big Church, and we've talked about it in Kids Church. And that famous speech that Jesus gave, we call the Sermon on the Mount. Kids, have you heard of the Sermon on the Mount?
You guys all fail Kids Church because you have.
Sermon on the Mount. It took place where? On a mount. Exactly, that's what we talked about. The Sermon on the Mount. It was full of really important ideas from Jesus about how to live God's way. And we all want to know how to live God's way. Is that right?
Yeah.
Let me hear you. Yeah, we want to know how to live God's way. And so Jesus gave this series of sermons, and you can read it for yourself in the book of Matthew. And the book of Matthew is in this other book called a what? A Bible. Give Chloe a hand. She did it. Yay!
Woo! Yeah, Chloe.
I love Chloe. She's always on it. the Bible. And in the Bible, in the book of Matthew, Jesus says this in chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. Check this out with me. Do not gather for yourselves riches on earth. Moths and rats can destroy them. How many of you love moths and rats? I don't like either one of those things. They're nasty. Thieves can break in and steal them. Instead, remember who's talking? Jesus said, gather for yourselves riches in heaven. There, where? In heaven, moths and rats do not destroy those things. There, thieves cannot break in and steal them. And then he says, verse 21, this is super important. If you know how to read, will you read it with me? Your heart will be where your riches are. Let's say that one more time, that last verse. Your heart will be where your riches are. Now think about that. Don't let that get scrambled up in your mind. I know you're sitting there eating Reese's and Airheads and Gobstoppers, but listen, Jesus said this to those people on that mountain way back then, but more importantly, he put it in that Bible so that you could read it, and you could read it, and you could read it. You and you and you and you and you and all of us could read it and understand that we can't get it scrambled up in our head. We've got to live in a way that focuses on the things that really matter. Say that with me. Focus on the things that really matter. The things that are most valuable, the things that will last forever. Why? Because if we take just stuff and stick it in our closet, the rats and the moths are going to come and eat it. Or somebody might break into our house and steal it. So there's no point in doing that. That just doesn't even seem like the right thing to do. We've got to use our time and our things and our money the way God intended for us to do that.
Man, P. Scott, that's some great teaching right there.
That's fire, ain't it?
Look at you go. Yeah, you're lit today, guys. And I don't know, kids, if you remember a couple weeks ago, there was a cute little man named Figgy that came into kids' church, and he talked to you about what? What's this? Time. Good job, whoever said that back there in the back. He talked about time. And we talked about, as our bottom line slide will tell us, that we need to use our time wisely. Everybody say that with me. Use your time wisely. We only have 24 hours in a day. When this whole thing goes all the way around, that's 24 hours. And our time is a gift from God. So how are you going to use it? Can somebody tell me how you're going to use your time? Yeah, we can use it wisely. What kind of things are we going to do with our time? Maybe go to school or go to work. We're going to play. Yeah, good job, Maurice. Anything else? Anybody else? Yeah, what are you going to do with your time? Let me get down here so I can hear you. You want to learn about God? Yeah, what about you? Yeah, if you only play with your friends for 2 minutes, you only have...
Ooh, I got an idea how I could use my time wisely, Aaron. What if I went somewhere and served somebody else?
Oh my gosh, that's a great idea.
Wouldn't that be a great way to use my time?
And all of these are great ideas. You're going to make time for your family and for your friends. You can choose to help people that are in need, like P. Scott said. It's also important to take time out of your day. And parents, I'm talking to you as well. Everybody in this room, it's important to take time out of our day and talk to God. It's kind of a weird concept to think about, don't you think?
Well, it's a relational thing.
There you go. That's right. So we want to read the Bible. Oh, man. It's that weird girl from VBS again. We're going to read our Bible, and we're going to pray, and we're going to grow stronger in our faith. And when you do those things, everybody read it with me. We use our time wisely. All right. Got it. So what the heck are you doing here?
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
And then, if you kids remember, what did you talk about the following week? How to use our... Remember? Our things wisely. Everything we own really comes from God. So we have to really take good care of it. And what are some ways that you can take care of your things? Let me get some answers from the audience. How can you take care of your things? How? Treat things nicely, exactly. What else? Ah, very good. What if someone lets you borrow a toy? What should you do with it? Oh, I heard somebody. Take care of it. Don't break it. What if something happens and you accidentally break it? What should you do? Very good. He just said, you tell someone that you're sorry and that you didn't mean to do it. That little phrase right there can get you out of a lot of trouble. Just saying, I'm sorry. Those were great ideas, and you can use your stuff to do good and to help people as well. You can look for ways to make a difference with what you have. You can be generous and willing to share with others. Again, when you do these sorts of things with your stuff, you're choosing to, let's look at the bottom line.
Use your things wisely.
Or live like you know what really matters.
Perfect. And that applies to our adults in the room too, because you guys have things, right? Name some of the things you have, adults. Cars, houses.
Hey, it's my turn. I'm back.
All that stuff?
It's my turn.
Oh, it's your turn again?
It's my turn.
Oh, I thought
Hey,
this
kids.
was my show.
No, it's all about me. Do you guys remember, well, if you can remember who I am without my beautiful little costume on, last week we talked about dollar bill, y'all, right? We talked about money. Is that right? Do we remember what we talked about with money? Ooh. Don't come get it. Nice try. I see you. Don't come steal my money. That's right. And we know that God provides what we need. Our money really belongs to Him. That made me really sad until we kind of started learning about it a little bit more, because I think I work hard for my money. But really, when we ask God to help us with our money, it makes it a whole lot easier. So instead of just trying to spend our money on all the things that we want, ouch, we need to make a plan for our money, right? We need to give to the church first. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to put it right over here for the church. Don't touch it. It's for the church. Then I'm going to take these right here, these two over here. I'm going to pick this one up too. And I'm going to put this in a little envelope up here that says save. So I'm going to save this money. And even though it feels like I only have these $2 left, I have that money that I gave to the church, and I have this money to save in case I accidentally throw a baseball and hit my neighbor's window, and then I can go to them and I can use those famous words that Amanda just taught us and say, hey, I'm really sorry I broke your window. I only have $6, but this might can help, right? And then I can spend these dollars right here on anything I want, right? I can go to Toys R Us and I can get a toy, and I can do all those little things right there. So when we're using our money like that, we are using it in responsible ways. So what's some ways that you guys can use your money responsibly? I can't see. Anybody?
Wouldn't you think the adults in the room would speak right up?
Yeah.
How
Anybody
can we
know
use
how
our
you
money
can use your
wisely?
money wisely? No? Yes, right there. Tell me, darling. How are you going to use your money wisely? Yeah, we can buy toys with the money that we're putting aside to spend. Yeah, we can get food for our family. That's a really good one. All of those were great ideas. Thank you for helping me. So when we use these ideas, we say it together. Use your money wisely. And ultimately, we learn how to live like you know what really, really matters.
And that's what's most important. That's what we're getting across today. Those are all great ideas. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming up with those. We've got to use our money wisely. We've got to use our things wisely. We've got to just live like we know what really matters. So with all of that in mind, let's go back to what Jesus said in Matthew chapter
6.
Are y'all awake out there? Matthew chapter 6, he said, we need to, what? Not gather for ourselves riches on earth, where moths and rats can destroy them, where thieves can break in and steal them. Instead, Jesus said, gather for yourselves riches in where?
Heaven.
Heaven, exactly. Where moths and rats can't destroy them because they can't get to them, and thieves can't break in and steal them. This is the important part at the end. Read it with me again, verse 21. Your heart will be where your riches are. Your heart will be where your riches are. You see, we live in a world where all people seem to care about getting more stuff, Do you ever hear about that? Everybody seems like they're trying to collect more and put it somewhere. There's a great story in the Bible about somebody who was trying to gather and put as much as they could into the barn. They collected so much stuff, they had to build more barns to get it all in there. But Jesus is saying, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be the type of person that all you care about is gaining more and more and more stuff, more money, more clothes, more shoes. By the way, do you like my shoes? Yeah. You don't want to just be collecting shoes. You want to prioritize what you're thinking and not get everything scrambled up. You see, people who think like that and act like that, they've been on the ride too long. They've been on the Scrambler too long. Have I ever told you about the Scrambler ride at the Carnival? This thing takes off.
Wait. We talked about the Scrambler earlier. Keep going.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready for the
These
candy.
people that think like that and they're just collecting stuff and trying to get it in their barns, man, they've been on the ride too long. They've got to get off the ride. They aren't thinking straight and they've been squished, just like you did just a few minutes ago. They've been squished by the world and all that it has to offer, and they're not thinking right. But God says what really matters is different than that. If we can become so focused on getting more and more and more stuff while we're here on earth, we're going to miss out on what things God wants us to really store up. Some of the things that you guys actually talked about, helping other people out, going to spend time with people who don't have anybody to come visit them, bringing food to someone who doesn't have food to eat, or maybe even a winter coat for somebody who doesn't have one this winter. We've got to get to know what God wants us to think about and not get scrambled up in our thinking. It's not having stuff that's wrong. We've all got stuff. But the problem is that we get focused on having stuff and we're missing out on what God can do through what we already have. Have you ever thought, kiddos, about the fact that you have a video game system so that you could invite somebody to come over and play that with you? Wow, what a concept that would be. Instead of you being in there all by yourself, you could say, hey, Bobby Joe, why don't you come over and play video games with me? Why would you want to do that? So that you can get to know Bobby Joe. Would you ever think that maybe you've got a bicycle or you've got whatever you've got to share with somebody else? That's God thinking. That's the way He wants you to prioritize what you have, not to get rid of everything and not have any toys or any stuff, but to use the stuff that you do have to help other people out. We've got to figure this thing out, and that's our challenge today, and it's what Jesus meant when He said all this. We've got to live like we know what really matters. That's our bottom line for today. We've got to be good stewards of time, things, and money that God has given us and use them to help others to make a difference. So as we put that bottom line back up on the screen, these things that happen here on earth, they're going to one day go away. Just like the Bible verse that we read says, if we store all that stuff up and shove it in a closet, or we build a building and put it in there, the moths are going to come and they're going to eat holes in it. Well, I took a pair of pants out of my closet not too long ago, and I thought I was going to go styling in them things. And I put them on, and I looked in the mirror, and the first thing I said was, Julie, did these make me look fat? And the second thing she said was, no, but they do have moth holes in them. So if we put things in there and we don't use them, we just store them up, the moths are going to come get them. And the rats, I don't like rats, are going to come and get them. I don't want to put anything anywhere where it's going to attract rats. Do you? Absolutely not. We've got to store up all these things in heaven. We've got to, what? Live like you know what really matters. Say it with me. Live like you know what really matters. Let's hear you, adults in the room.
Live like we know what really matters. That's right, P. Scott. And that's some awesome, awesome teaching right there, right? Everybody say good stuff, P. Scott. Good job. Yeah. And stewardship, it all comes down to one thing, and that's knowing that everything that we have, it all belongs to God. Everything that we have belongs to God. No matter how much you have, everything still belongs to Him. So you might have tons of jeans in that drawer, but they all belong to God. And when it comes down to it, it's how we use it. It's not about me. It's not about Peace God. It's not about you or your mom. It's about God and how he wants you to use those things wisely. So again, we're going to remember the bottom line slide one more time, and we're going to all say it as loud as we possibly can. This is the time in kids' church when we normally say, hey, I want everybody to be so loud that our parents hear us in big church, right? So everybody in the room is going to be really loud. You ready?
Loud as you can say it.
1, 2, 3. Live like you know. Awesome. That was all right.
For just a split second, I want to speak to the adults in the room. Listen, you may have been riding on the Scrambler ride too long. You may be here today and just somehow, and all of this craziness that's been going on stage, and you were thinking, I don't even know if I came to church this morning. The one thing that you are realizing right now is that you've been on that Scrambler ride too long. Life's just crazy, and people have been whizzing by, and you thought you were going to hit, but sometimes you missed, and you're squished in, and you just don't know what to do. You've been squished and tossed around by the world, your friends, your family, and you've had so many things coming at you so fast for so long that you aren't thinking straight anymore. It's time for you to live like you know it really matters. It's time for you to get focused. Through this entire Carnival Life study, we've been focusing these messages and our time together on Sunday mornings with help for you, like spending time in God's Word, looking at your finances and making sure these things are straight, not ingesting carnival food all the time, but looking at your spiritual condition. All of that stuff was to help you get focused. But here's what you need to make that happen. You need God's help. You've got to make better choices with your time. The kids aren't the only one making bad choices with our time, are we? Adults? No, they're not. You've got to make better choices with your things. You've got to make better choices with your money. You are the example that the kids in here are going to follow. Will you look at another adult somewhere near you and look at them and say, you are the example?
Hey, you're the example.
Kids in the room, check this out. Listen up real quick as we end our time together. Although rides at the carnival are super fun, they make your head spin, they're kind of crazy. I actually love roller coasters, and they go upside down sometimes. And that is just a great amount of fun. They make us feel happy inside. They're just rides. They're just entertainment. In other words, they aren't real life. And when we come to church, we deal with real life stuff. Is that right? So carnival rides are fun, but they're not real life. Real life is hard sometimes, and as you grow up, and that's why me and Miss Julie and Miss Erin and all of the kids team come every Sunday morning to try to help you understand that as you grow up, life can be hard sometimes. And as you grow up, you need to learn to focus. You need to learn to take the things that are scrambling up your thinking and move them to the side and get focused on what Jesus said and what God has for you to be really important. You need to make good choices with your things. You need to make good choices with your time. You need to make good choices with your money. How many of you get an allowance? Is that 1980 or what? There's only 2 kids in the room that get an allowance. What's wrong with you parents? Give them some money. You've got to spend time making sure you know how to use that money, kids. You need to live like you know what really matters. So here's what we're going to do as we end our time together. We're going to all bow our heads, and we're all going to close our eyes. We end it like this every Sunday morning in kids' church, and we ask Jesus for something. Sometimes we ask Jesus to help us when our anger is getting out of control. Sometimes we ask Jesus to help us forgive people. But today, we're going to ask Jesus to help us get focused and live like we know what really matters. Will you start thinking about that? You kids and adults alike, will you start thinking, what is it that really matters? What have I been spending my time on? What have I been spending my money on? And what do I do with this stuff, these things that I've accumulated on this earth? And so as you start to think about that, we're going to ask Jesus to help us be better in any of these areas. Maybe for some of you, it's just one of those areas and you focused in on it and you're like, yep, that's me. But maybe we need help in all of these areas. And what we're going to do is we're going to pray together, and I'm going to lead us in a prayer, and we're going to ask Jesus to help us. No matter what situation we're in this morning, no matter how many bad choices we've made with our time, with our things, and with our money, Jesus says this. He says, if you'll ask me, if you'll pray to me this morning and you'll ask me for help, guess what Jesus will do? He'll give it. He's going to help you along the way. That doesn't mean you'll never mess up again. It means that Jesus is going to be right there with you to help you, to help guide your conscience with the Holy Spirit's help so that you will be less and less likely not to honor Him with your choices. Are you ready to pray? Eyes closed and heads bowed. This applies to everybody across the room, so there's no reason to ask people to raise their hand because we've all messed this up. So everyone, just pray in your own way to Jesus as I lead us in this prayer. Jesus, we thank you today from this great message from your word. For us to think about your words as you preached them on that Sermon on the Mount, but yet you put them in this Bible that we have so that we can read them and understand them and so that we can start to live the way you want us to. You said don't store up stuff on this earth where it can be stolen or rats or moths can eat it. Jesus, you want us to invest our time, invest our money, invest ourselves and the things that you've blessed us with to help other people. And what we want to do is we want to help other people know you. So all across this room, myself included, we are praying this morning and we are asking you, Jesus, first of all, that if we don't know you as Lord and Savior, would you come and live in our heart today? Would you come and reside inside of us and change us from the inside out? We receive you as the Son of God this morning. And then we ask you, Jesus, because we know you're capable of doing it, would you help us manage our time better? For some of us, it's just a matter of putting things on a calendar and sticking to a calendar. Jesus, whether we're adults in this room, we're listening by internet this morning, or a small child, we all have been blessed with a certain amount of time. Would you help us make better decisions on what we do with that time this morning? You just pray in your own way and just say, Jesus, help me manage my time. And Jesus, would you come this morning, even before we leave this place, and would you help us be better managers of the things that you've blessed us with? The adults in the room have cars and houses and money, and they've got stuff stored up. God, I just pray that you would impress upon them today what you would have them to go and do, to use that for the kingdom of heaven. And the children in this room, some of them have closets full of toys and things, and we're not suggesting or asking that people necessarily go out and get rid of all that. We're asking you, Jesus, to help us learn how to use our things more wisely. And then, Jesus, this morning, this important topic of money that sometimes we don't want to talk about, we're talking about it this morning. The adults in this room and the children in this room alike, at some point, have money that we've been blessed with, and sometimes we've let it slip through our hands. Jesus, would you help us learn how to manage and use our money better than we ever have before, so that more people can know who you are and what you did for them. We celebrate you today, Jesus. We thank you that in all of these things, we've got to live like we know what really matters. When we leave this place today, or maybe before we leave this place today, we're going to act different. We're going to think different. We're going to talk different. We're going to look different, because in this moment, I believe you're changing hearts and you're impressing upon us what really matters. And God, I just pray that the changes that you're just now putting on our hearts and our minds, that we'll go home and act on those things. Would you give us boldness? Would you give us courage? Jesus, would you help us do the thing that we can't do sometimes, and that is to let go of stuff. But today, in this moment, as you change our hearts and our minds, and you transform us into the people, the boys and girls, the moms and dads, the grandpas and grandmas, the aunts and uncles that you've called us to be. Oh God, we thank you today that you have the ability to do that, that in and of yourself, you can help to mold us to be more like you. And we ask all these things in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. We've got to live like really matters. We've got to understand what's important and what to do with the things that God has blessed us with. P-Raw.
Would you give them all a big hand this morning for presenting that powerful message to us? And thanks to Scott and his incredible team. And I was reminded as we were walking through that lesson together in that amazing display of just bringing it alive of the disciples when they were in the boat with Jesus in Mark chapter 4. And the Bible says Jesus was asleep up in the front part of the boat and a storm came, and it really became a violent, just rip-roaring, wide-open storm that was wreaking havoc on the boat, winds and waves just tossing it around. And as the picture, it kind of came to my mind when he talked about the Scrambler and just life moving us around, crazy stuff happening and all the things that we have to deal with. And they became afraid for their lives. And maybe you're at that place right now that you've had fear come because of everything that's coming at you. But I love what the word says. They woke Jesus up. He was still asleep in the midst of all that. You know what that is? That's incredible, overwhelming faith and peace that just lets you know everything's going to be okay. And when he woke up, he calmed the storm, and he looked at him. He said, have faith in me. Trust me. So I believe that Pastor Scott and his team reminded us of that in the last few moments. Have faith, trust God, live in his peace. There's nothing like it. So we thank you all again for being with us, and we are not finished. Before we give you some instructions on the next part of our gathering, I just want to let you all know that is Trent somewhere close by, Trent and Jess? In the vicinity. I know he was in the lobby a few moments ago. If Trent would come, and if Jess is in, or maybe she was with the babies. But a little while back, we let you all know that Trent and Jess were going to be making a move and moving away from vocational ministry with us here at the church. And they were going to stay with us through the transition. The worship transition is here and happening, and thank the Lord that our team of folks who are a part of that stepped up valiantly and said, hey, we want to keep this going in the right direction. And Amanda agreed to take the helm of that and kind of lead the team. Chris, Luke, and Corey, and Kalani, and Kayla, and Justin, and everybody else that's a part of the team stepped up and said, yes, we are appreciative of the leadership that we've had and the growth that we've experienced, and we have a heart and a passion to keep that going. The student ministry transition is underway as well. We're putting the final touches on that, but this is going to be the last official Sunday that Trent and Jess are with us in this capacity. So we wanted to thank them again and let them know how much we appreciate their love, their hearts, and their leadership here. So would you do that with me one more time together like that? Yes.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's message. For information about the church, you can go to our website, connectionschurch.church, or you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram.